Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. So good afternoon for Europe, good morning to US, and good evening to Asia, wherever you are. Welcome. This is the second episode of Audio Startup Series. So our webinar series that is dedicated to building and scaling audio companies. We are My 3D Audio Ventures, which is a venture studio that, this goal of our studio is to invest and to help founders and managers of audio startups to help them succeed, right? We know this, how difficult this is. One of our goals actually is to, hold this webinar series in order to share valuable knowledge. And I'm particularly happy today because we have a very, very special guest. It's Kevin Molcard, who is a former R&D Director from company Arturia. I don't have to introduce the company. I think I don't have to introduce Kevin. So I will let Kevin do this himself.
Okay. Hello, everybody, and thank you, Wojtek, for inviting me. So maybe first I can give a bit of my background and how I came to the audio industry initially. First, when I was a teenager, I wanted to become an audio engineer, and that's what I tried to do after high school, but I didn't manage to go to the school to do that. So I decided to study computer science. And after a couple of years, I said I was playing a lot with software like Ableton and Fruity Loops. It was called like that back then. And it was something like Ableton Live 2 and Fruity Loops 2 or 3 in 2005 or 4, something like that. And I was enjoying a lot this software, and I said, okay, I could maybe work in a company that is doing this kind of software. So that was my plan. So I studied computer science for 5 years, and then when I graduated, I sent my resume to lots of different companies, and Arturia hired me as a software intern. It was back in 2007. I started to work as a software engineer on their first hardware synth. It was called Origin, and I was in charge of Mac Windows software, who was managing the presets of the units and also updating all the chips that are inside the unit. I did that for maybe 2-3 years. Then I started to work on a drum machine called Spark. It was a hybrid solution combining a software and a dedicated MIDI controller. And I was in charge of all the software, all the plugin side. So I did lots of development in it, pretty much all the audio engine, all the sequencing parts, the communication with the MIDI device. I learned a lot of things during those years. And then I took the project management of this software because the project manager left the company. And I did that for approximately 4 years. At that time, the company was starting to grow and needed a bit more structure. So we needed to manage the big project, which was called V Collection. At that time, it was the V Collection 4. I took the management of the whole project and also the management of the software development team. I did that for the next 4-5 years until V Collection 8 or 9. I don't remember exactly. At that time, the company was even much bigger, and I took the role of director of R&D. So it was in charge of developing all the project, hardware and software of the company. And I did that for almost 3 years, 3 very interesting years, because there was this the COVID period and all the issues that we had afterward. but also very exciting. And we learned a lot how to adapt our development, but we'll talk a bit more afterward. And I recently left the company 7 months ago. First, I took a few months for myself, and I'm just starting a new venture, a freelance activity, both in software engineering and consulting for companies in the music tech industry. And I guess that's it for my intro.
Super exciting. So you guys, you see, Kevin, thank you so much. Again, that you we're just communicating via LinkedIn for some time already, like for a couple of years, I think. I'm also like a Arturia user, so it was also like pleasant to meet somebody who actually built, few collection that I also use in my music production. I know from people who were sending comments before the webinar that there are some people who were like producers using your software that you built. Is particularly interesting. But I'm also excited because you in Arturia went through the period where company was back then when you joined, I think like less than 20 people, right?
Yeah.
And then when you manage yourself like 70 people, like a R&D team, right? So it's like a
exactly.
Yeah. So you have a personally experienced like a growth and what challenges people may get, right? So hopefully we'll be able to answer people some questions if they actually like running small company and it's growing, or they are just maybe like yourself, engineer who plan to build something from scratch. Hopefully we'll be able to get them some hints, right? Yep. So I have one small technical point. So guys, there will be like a 15 minutes at the end for questions and answers. So feel free to post any comments and questions during the webinar, but we'll not answer them right away. We'll just collect them. I'm sort of one with my one eye, browsing through them slowly, and yes, and we'll just read them at the end. If we don't manage to answer all the questions, we'll try to do it afterwards. I'm also too happy to say that Kevin is also our mentor. So in my 3D Auto Ventures, we're just helping startups. So if you have any like a comment, you need to work, for example, on some project, you have challenges, feel free to reach out, and once again we can connect you with Kevin, and yeah, that's another point, right? So he'll be not lost, hopefully, right after the webinar. All right. Listen. So maybe if I may start, by this, thing related, to the, like growing the team, like processes, etc. Right. So when you started, it was like a small, like only few people. So, and at the end, you say it was like almost 70 people. So when do you think is like a good time, to like dividing role? You have hardware and software, probably also QA, right? Some testing, etc. So how did you, look at the beginning, and how was your what is your approach to?
What's very important, even if at the beginning you are a very small amount of people, and obviously you are doing everything by yourself, and maybe you are a couple of people, it's very important to split responsibilities and to decide who is responsible of what, and yeah, to have role set, even if people are handling several roles by themselves. Like who is making decision, who is in charge of the feature set, who is in charge of validating a design or validating a feature. It's I think it's very important to do that from day one, and then as you are growing, the value of internal QA is for me very, very important. I know it can be seen as a luxury, because it's not delivering value by itself. I would say it's not creating like a designer or a developer. They are creating assets, where QA is not creating assets by themselves, but the quality that you can reach with internal QA compared to without is very, very, very,
But
very
so,
difficult.
Kevin, may I interrupt and ask you? So,
Yeah, go ahead.
are you saying by this that you recommend actually to have a QA very quickly? When you are still like a small team, or just do it, within the team? Maybe some, like a, what kind of tests maybe
I
to
think
do?
I would
Mhm.
say that if you do not have money to hire a dedicated QA technician
Mhm.
or QA engineer, dedicate some of your time to do proper QA and to test deeply the product and in real world situations, I would say.
Gotcha. And what kind of test? What kind of testing did you maybe, if you can say introduce? What kind of, what types of tests? Maybe you could maybe just share a little bit. I know testing. I was working on the
Mhm.
testing software before, but maybe people don't know. So,
Yeah, of course, there are all the automated tests that you can develop by yourself, and I think this is very, very important to do also that the sooner as possible.
you mean in
Uh,
the code? You mean in the code? So so
yeah,
developers actually already do the testing.
unit test, integration test, all that stuff. For instance, if you are developing a plugin, an audio plugin, there are already lots of uh, existing test suites that you can use, like the audio unit test suite, like even there are software that help you in that. And then, so having all that automated test run and set that in each time you commit a new version of your software, all those tests are being run automatically. So you
Like a
get
regression, so automated regression. What you're saying that you can
exactly
do regression testing.
get those feedback uh, on a daily basis, and you are not creating debt because you don't know that the issue are coming, and then when you are almost able to deliver to your end user, and then you start to see all those issues that you could have fixed before. And it's much less costly to fix an issue when at the moment you are creating it, rather than 2 or 3 months afterward.
Oh, I mean, thank you for just highlighting this. I mean, as you know, I work a little bit with, like automated regression testing. So I know that a lot of people, as even in larger companies, to my surprise, they find testing as an overhead, and they don't want to invest in testing. And actually, yes, until they have a big problem, right? And after they already, make some
Yeah,
problems. Yeah.
it's very difficult because also sometimes you already have a code base which hasn't any test in it, so you do not know exactly when to start from and all that kind of things. It's true. It's very difficult, and so
So did you build software in like in a, I don't know, some kind of edge? We'll talk about hardware as well, but did
Mhm.
you build software in some kind of iterative agile Scrum approach, or what is
Yeah,
your
yeah. I
philosophy?
think lots of companies are doing that. Their own view on agile stuff. So what we had put in place, we had this sprint view. So having 2 or 3 weeks regular deliveries, and
Mhm.
making sure that you have something that is testable after this period. It's very important. Uh, but I think that's, from my point of view, that's not what's really key. It's yeah, making sure that on a regular basis and even on a daily basis, what you are producing is able to run. First, can you compile it if you are using a language that is compiling? But and then are you able to run the test? Are you able to launch the app
Mhm.
on the different platform you are supporting? All that things. It's very important to have it tested on a daily basis. I think it saves so much time at the end. Um, that's probably the most important thing you have to do.
Got it. Got it. Well, there was a reason I asked also about. I know we'll talk about the process in a second, but you used to do, like you say that, obviously developers were just making small tests within the code, and then we also made a sort of definition of done. So test scenario was to be created together with the working software. So we couldn't close the sprint until we don't only have a working piece of I don't know, functionality or software, but also we sort of put a QA person already like on the small team working on the so while the designer was already like building the feature, the tester was already trying to document the scenario, right? So at the end we didn't have to make like a technical debt, right? And create. I'm not sure if you have a similar approach.
I think as a developer, you have a responsibility because you know the best how your software is working, and usually you know also the best how you can play with it to break it.
Okay.
So it's really on you as a developer when you have developed a new feature, for instance, to test it very deeply to the best you know before delivering it to anybody else. I think that's very important. And then after that, you have your automated test, and then if you have resources for that, you deliver to QA, and then they can test it. But you cannot be, to not take the time to test your software and just you develop, you make your code, you push your stuff, and you expect that it's working.
Yes, I hear you. I hear you. I listen about how about the hardware, because you said that at the end you manage all the software and hardware. So we touch it gently. Like a process of building software, iterative. Remember, when we prepared to the webinar, we discussed, can hardware be done in an agile way? So can there be any iterations? So what are your thoughts? And maybe you could share how do you build software? What do you recommend to building software?
Hardware is divided into two different things. You have the hardware by itself and the software inside the hardware. I would say that the software inside the hardware, it can be done in a agile way, but for the hardware itself, you have strong boundaries between different phases. And when you pass one phase, you cannot go back. I mean, you can always go back. It's just a matter of cost and time to market. So depending on how much you have invested, how much you still want to invest, and how much time you have, sometime when you make a decision, you have to commit to it and not to go back to this decision. So what is usually good for hardware is that you first, depending on what you are doing, if you really are new and that you are making some breaking innovations, first you need to make a prototype of your hardware, but without taking the mechanical constraints. So maybe with a breadboard and plugging the components directly. You make maybe only one or maybe just two prototypes like this, just to really validate your design and making sure that at least the electronics is doing what you expect it's doing. Then you can do a second phase, which is producing a first or maybe 2-3 prototypes of the real product that you want to do. So this means that you already have a design of your product. How many buttons do you want? Do you want a screen? What kind of screen? Knobs, keypad, I don't know. You need to have that setup before you go to that phase. Then you build your prototype, usually with a CNC, 3D printers, these kind of things. And you validate that your design is still working given the constraint, or that maybe you need to adapt your 3D design, your industrial design to fit the mechanical constraint, because, for instance, the screen has, you cannot put buttons too close to the screen or something like that. At that time, you can start to move forward also in the software with those prototypes, because you have everything set up correctly. And if you have time, I think it's good to really move forward and have a software almost feature complete with those products and with those prototypes. Because also at that time, when you go to the next phase, this is the phase where you invest the most money, and it's very, very difficult to go back after, because you are producing the production tooling and all that stuff. So it's better to have your feature set completely set, and the software that is not maybe completely feature complete, but have all the major feature implemented, and that that they are working, because it's very difficult to go back after that.
So listen, did if I can stop here, did it ever happen to you that at that stage when you try to build like a production tool is really like a and you realize that this is not going to work, maybe it's not going just too expensive, or like a not did it ever happen that you sort of close the project and say no, it's actually
I think we did that a couple of times, but that's it's not that very often, but that's really depending on I mean on the company CEO, and on the will of how many do you want to invest before you start to really launch the development or not. And so it can happen. I know companies that are doing that. So
how much money actually they have to spend.
It's probably the best time to stop a project if you think it's not going to be viable, because maybe the sales expectations are not enough compared to the investment, or that kind of thing. That's still the moment where you can do it without losing too much money. Afterward, it's another topic, I would say.
Oh yes. I've been there.
It cannot always be done, but
yeah. So Kevin, if I may stop here again and see, because of course we are talking R&D, so like building the product. I know you mentioned when we discussed before the webinar, at some point obviously product management was introduced, right, in Arturia. So there is, you obviously have a partner, somebody who's actually talking to clients, right, and talking to the market, making some projections, working with marketing and sales, so at
exactly,
what stage that happens, what is helpful, how did you work with product managers? You may sort of shed some light.
Product management, it's another role that is very, very important, because when you are a startup, usually you have lots of engineers and people with great ideas, innovations, and maybe they have done a PhD in some topics and they want to put it into markets, that kind of stuff. And having people that have in mind only the customer and the potential users, and how they will get the product, reason about it. It's very important. Also because it's their responsibilities to define the feature set. Of course, they will get input from the engineers, from the designers maybe, and make it a real product. But during the course of the project also, the role is very important, because they are in charge of making decisions. Because when you have a spec written, and you have the engineering department implementing the specs, there are always things that are not working as the product management thought it should. Or maybe when you start to implement it, you see that there is an improvement that can be done, and or these kind of things. And here there is discussions between engineering, product management, sometimes QA if you have QA, and they are discussing all together. But at the end, the decision has to be taken by somebody, and that's clearly the role of product management, to take those decisions and to move forward. And so if you have no product management, the risk is that you will take a decision without all the good inputs, and maybe there will be the engineering R&D will have too much power.
Over engineering, perhaps over engineering. Listen, I'm just shaking hands so much because you know that I'm actually a product guy, right? So I have a background in marketing and work as a product manager, funded software startup, but as a product manager. And I saw many times what when actually we went to Superbooth, we met there, right? And had a beer, and I saw many startups actually, like you say, right? I mean, engineer, sales. We just think of, maybe selling ourselves, maybe via website, we don't think about production yet, maybe, parts, etc. So, but what I actually very often see is actually people over-engineer, right? So they just build, I call it spaceships, so things that are way too complicated and, could be sold already like a year or 2 years ago. If we only, how to say, think about, minimum valuable product, right? This is the term, right? So see what's actually minimum thing that, already delivers the value for the customers, right? So, but anyway, it's not about product management and me, it's about R&D and your experience. So what is your experience about working with product management? How did they involve you, and what would be a recommendation for you to work?
What we used to do is that they are the initial phase of the project. So they have this kind of ideas, and they propose, they write kind of a brief, 1 or 2 page, explaining what could be the product, with a small design of how many buttons, what are doing the buttons, like that. We at the R&D we do a rough estimation of how much time it could take, depending if this is something we already know how to do or not, how much it will cost also, and with that we exchange, and we give it to the CEO, and we exchange all together, and we decided to start or not the project. When the project starts, the product management is in charge to define and write the whole specification of the product, of course with back and forth with the engineering department, and once we have a more detailed specification, we can build a proper plan, and decide how much resources we will allocate on the project, and then the project runs, and the product manager will follow the project during the whole development until the launch, but they are also much involved, all the working with the marketing department on what are the key features to put on the website, on the product boxes, or preparing also the launch, the promo video, that kind of things. So
one thing that I had in mind to wrap it up, because I understand that like everywhere else, product managers works also close to the market, so the customers. Did they involve you maybe, in talking to customers directly, or, like, so were you involved sometimes, like in the front end, talking to customers direct or potential customers directly, or they just simply keep you away and, they just talk to customers and translate whatever?
I would say that I did that, but it was, at the time there was no product management and no proper QA department, where I was in charge of defining the specs of the product, not alone, but with other people in the company, and talking to beta testers, and hiring sound designers, and and even doing the technical support, the high-level technical support sometimes.
Like
So
startup, like so many. Yeah,
yeah,
there was a startup, right? 20 people is like a startup. So you have many heads, right? You are
exactly. And
mhm.
yeah, it was fun time, but yeah, if you want the company to grow, of course you cannot do that for yeah,
Thank you. That's
especially
a great comment. We'll just write it down, Kevin, later. We just make these remarks for people who want to scale. So I think, if I could probably take this one small, super sweet, point that you made. If you want to scale, you need to a certain point thing, like this division, you cannot be, you know, to give an example, we had 100 customers. You want to talk to every single 100, of the 100, I don't know, it was actually B2B.
yeah.
In B2C, you have hundreds of thousands of customers, right? You cannot build products and talk to everybody, please everyone, right? You need to have a split of roles.
Yeah, and yeah, that leads to hiring people and to to delegate responsibilities. Yeah, that's a key topic. Hiring is a very, very important topic. You have to hire the right people. Uh, and yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy. It's not given to everybody to have these skills, but it can be learned. So there are lots of good resources also on internet on that field, and yeah, I think
So
I have.
what could you yes, actually recommend for to how to I'm I know we discussed, right? So I'm just sort of
Yeah.
I know what you want to do.
Yeah, I would say that first you have to clearly set what you expect from the people you are hiring. What are the key things that you want to do them to do properly and good. And then when you are interviewing people, one very key thing is, do they fit with the culture, the company culture? That's probably the most important thing. Even over skills, I would say. Of course, you won't hire people that have no skill at all. But when you have several good candidates, I would definitely prefer somebody that have the mindset that fits in the company culture, that somebody that is maybe a bit more skilled in some aspects, but that you have doubt that it will fit with the company, with the team, that kind of things. And yeah, I have hired a lot of people in my career, and this rule of thumb worked pretty much all the time. When I had doubt on somebody and that finally decided to hire him because I don't know, there was no other candidate at the time, and I really need these skills to fit to come. At the end, it's
Yeah.
it ended up
Actually, how do you
having.
say call it? Square peg in the round hole, right? This is how you say it in English, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
How do you? What I wanted to ask? Do you use any? Did you have? Is it just gut feeling, or like a support from HR, or you have like a framework to do it? How do you?
I think that's my gut feeling was very important. So I think you have to trust yourself in that regard. But also you have to trust people. For instance, if you are hiring somebody to come in to join a team, you have to delegate some part of the hiring to somebody in the team, and you have to trust them in that regard, because they
Very good
will
point.
work
Thank you.
on on 8 hours per day all together, and so that's important.
So you accept the candidate together, after so to
Exactly.
speak. Very good point. It's so beautifully you went from processes and tools, to people. I just wanted to touch, and then you actually raise it yourself. Thank you, thank you. Listen, so because we touched, we went from processes and like agile, waterfall, production, etc., and to sort of people and soft part of like say managing R&D team. So if I can ask, what was your, how was it? Because, you, like you said at the beginning, you started as a software engineer and then you became a manager, right? So what was your, how was the journey for you? Was it difficult to become, like a manager of big department from, just
actually, it was kind of smooth because I did it, I would say, gradually. I started to manage projects, so I had no, hierarchical responsibilities. I was just coordinating the teams and making sure that everybody have what they need to do their job. And
So without actually having responsibility for it's not like a linear responsibility. You just manage project, but you didn't have to look after their, salaries, rises, computers, blah 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 stuff, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And I quite enjoyed that. And then the company proposed me to manage the team globally with all that things also. It was very interesting, a bit more difficult because of what you said. And when you have this responsibility over people, they're also expecting a lot from you. But that's what I think I did that from day one. I was thinking the more time I give to my team, the more there will be effective. So it was, I always have seen my job as making the best of what I can do to make them very efficient and productive and performing.
Empowerment.
Exactly. Trying to be available, listening to them, not trying to solve their problem by myself. I mean, when they are seeing issue in development or something like that, not doing, not telling them what they have to do, but trying to help them to find the solutions. But being available, I think that's very important, and that's
Thank
helping
you.
a lot.
And how was for you? Did you have any mentor? Did you good relatives look for somebody to help you out in this transition?
Not at that time, not when I took the management role, but I had one when I took the role from managing the software team to managing the whole R&D department. So I had a coaching. So we hired an external coach at the time, and it was very, very helpful for me. Because so I was taking the role, but we were also in the need to reorganize the whole R&D department, because at that time, initially, it was a very horizontal, I would say, organization, and the teams have grown kind of organically across the projects. So we had the analog synth team, we had the MIDI controller team, and we had the audio interface teams. And they were not talking that much all together, even if in each team we had people doing the same job, like firmware engineering, electronics, mechanical. And so we decided to reorganize the teams by their specialties. So we moved from a project-based organization to a more trade specialty.
Hardware, software. Okay, got it. Actually, I wanted to ask this question as well, and you already. So thank you. You raised it. That was actually very interesting because I had this problem as well. That the teams become like tribes inside the company, and I was curious how you managed. And I can see you had exactly the same problem, right?
Yeah, and I would say that there is never a perfect organization. An organization is something that you have to see it as evolving, and it should not be written in stone. Even if the bigger you are coming, the more difficult it is to adjust and to change it. But you have an organization that is solving a problem you have at the moment in the company life, I would say.
It's constantly changing. The only constant thing is change. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kevin, if I may just say something, I wanted to make a small pitch, because you mentioned about this mentoring, and I said at the beginning, but like in the good webinar, I just wanted to mention that Kevin is a mentor himself, and as you remember, he mentioned at the beginning, he's just helping other startup owners or if you need technical support like in engineering and research, audio research, he's available. But not only Kevin, our team of mentors actually are people of Kevin's level and magnitude, people from Isotope, from Arturia, from Audinate, hardware, software, etc. I'm putting the link on the chat, right, and on the comment section. So feel free to have a look, and if you ever need some support, and if anything that Kevin says like resonates with you, and you find problems like this, do not hesitate. Reach out. For free, we'll just talk about it and see how we can connect with Kevin. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's remember about this. So Kevin, you mentioned about problems, right?
Just to go back to the mentorship, it's true that when I took the role to the whole R&D department, I was not very experienced in the hardware development, obviously. Even if I've worked on hybrid project, on hardware project, so I've seen the development, but I was not yet very experienced. So I took as a right hand man somebody who was in the company even longer than me, and we worked on lots of projects to help me to take decisions and things like that. So don't be afraid or ashamed to ask for help from people who knows. It's really really helpful to when especially when you are in a learning phase. I would say.
Yes, and this is especially important for startup owners. I've been there. I also failed with one because, oh Jesus, I could turn in not to be so bold and and stubborn. This is my biggest lesson, not to be so stubborn. Listen, I wanted, because we're just running. Discussion is so great. We could probably I know that you are going to a concert after the webinar, so we cannot keep you longer. And secondly, we wanted to give some time for comments. So I wanted to touch just one more topic, which is contractors, because when we spoke before webinar, you mentioned actually something very important, something very underestimated, right, by many teams. So working with contractors. If you could maybe give some tips.
So I think when you are looking for a very very niche skill set, or very very expert skill set, for instance, and you do not have it internally, you have two choices. Either you decide to hire somebody and to join the company to work on a full-time basis, or you hire for a contractor. And I think that's it's, at least I have experienced that a few times, and it's very very interesting to have contractors to come to the company for a small amount of time. I would say it could be a few weeks or a few months, depending on the size of the project and the size of the jobs. And it's very very effective. But what's important in that regard is that you make sure that those contractors are properly documenting what they are doing, and that you have time in the contract to share the information with your internal team to make sure that you are able to continue afterward. That's the typical thing, and that's usually also.
I mean, once again, it resonates so much because I had the same. I remember the same problem with contractors, right? So underestimated, and sometimes they can work fast, quickly, right? I mean, I'm not sure if you have the same experience, right? They are just sometimes super agile, right? You give them tasks and you don't have to coach them, mentor. They're just entrepreneurs, and like having small company, working with such a renowned company like Arturia probably must be like a big wow. So so then I'm not sure, but for me it worked like this. Sometimes even I had some arguments. I probably should not say that loud, but had some arguments inside the company because we, they didn't want us to hire contractors, and sometimes, work was simply fast. I cannot ask questions like this because it's a maybe awkward one. But but I mean, that's sometimes underestimated. Yeah, that's true, and probably maybe except for like some core competency, right? If you do something which is like a core stuff for the company, you don't want to probably outsource it. I'm sure.
Yeah, but it can also be something that help your team to grow in that skill set. So you can have those contractors doing some training within your team. We also add them at that a couple of times, and that's very, very good because it's also empowering the team, motivating them because they see obviously those very expert people coming and learning them new things. Let's go back to something in management that's very important when you are a manager, is making sure that people in your team are constantly growing and not stuck in something in a field because after a couple of years
I think especially engineers, right? They want to actually test new technologies, work on something new. I'm not an engineer, but when I observe and I work with engineers, I heard that many times. I simply want to new project, right? Because I want to grow. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and it can be leads to very good opportunities even inside the companies. When you are growing, people can have different roles and things like that. So you have to take care of that when you are a manager. You have to really follow the career of your teams, and if you do that well, it will be it will really motivate them and making sure that they will give their best on the long run.
Yeah, Kevin, listen, I mean, I somehow feel we haven't have enough time, and still we have like maybe 12 minutes to go. So if maybe we can stop here. Of course, if there will be need, we can perhaps steal some of your time again. But if I want to give like a floor for a couple of questions during the webinar, so let me just display them. So question number 1: do you introduce procedures right from the beginning, or do you wait for the team company to be more organized?
I would say that it's good to have it from the beginning, and you can do them very simple and make them evolve within the organization. But and I mean procedures. It can be very simple, but it can start by when you are doing developments by having proper commit messages. So that when you go back to the commit history, what's happening. It's when you deliver a new version of the product, is having them properly named, so what's the version, and writing a changelog. That's something that's
I was about to ask about this.
To start from day one.
Thank you for saying this. I was actually about changelog. The head of engineering in our company, the company I worked before some time ago, actually introduced decision log just so we can go back and actually see what our thinking was, right? So because they made some technical decisions, and 2-3 years later you don't know actually what why we did took the road we did. Anyway, so that was the one question. Next question: how is the research process usually done?
There are different ways to do it. Either you have a proper research department who is doing only research, I would say, and that you let them really free up to a certain degree, I would say, to work on their project and to really deep dive into things. Or you can also have a rough idea of a product already that you want to do, but there are things that you don't know exactly how you will be able to do them, to produce them, to all that. So it can be either in these two regards. What we had at Arturia, it was more in the second.
So more like a product base, right? So taken from the need and then actually try to apply technology to specific need that you, or some kind of product idea, new market niche that you found, right? That's what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I would say that both of them can work. Just make sure that if you have the former one, make sure that you still have your customer in the
yeah, I know what you mean. In mind, or actually their needs in head. Yes. Yeah. Yes. So the question to Rodolfo: does this answer your question? Did you have something like a different in mind? If you can just type the question, because of course we can talk more about, of course, research is actually like a long topic of its own. But I would probably agree, right, that the danger of being sort of research or like a engineering-driven company is that very easy is to lose customer and market from be focused on actually what technology does rather what problems does it solve, right? And that's okay. Oh, more questions are coming. Okay, so let me put another one. That's so great. Managing people is also connected with letting people go. Those apparently did not fit the company culture. How did you handle this? Oh, it's a tough one.
This one is a tough one. Yeah. Oh. I think here it's really a manager work, and I would say that it's to talk with them and to really assess what's not going well. Why do you think this cultural fit is not here? And then get their view on it. Are they happy in the company or not? Do they enjoy working with the team? And try to find solution without letting them go. But at some point, if it's not working at all, you have to, as you said, you have to let them go. I would say that in France, it's a bit complicated, a bit different than in other countries.
Well, I mean, here it's actually pretty similar, right? I mean, Germany, Poland, it's maybe Europe generally, then rather than US. Yeah. Can I just add something? And I know it's a question to you, but what I wanted to sort of touch point here. Probably one most the easiest question answer to be like a respectfully, right? So sometimes if there is no cultural fit, this this inconvenience is from both sides. And I mean, I learned sometimes that as long as it is hard to let go, people sometimes a couple of months or years later tell me, oh Jesus, you did think that you let me go because I found actually a job that actually suits me way better. I had situations like this, but it was simply like respectfully, without always, face to face or sort of teams to teams, if just a remote team. Yeah, but probably this, and it's
Yeah,
not
exactly.
not that terrible
But
as it's supposed to be.
really, yeah, you need to have good managers, and it goes back to hiring or promoting the right people in the right role. So yeah.
So you see, if I know we have one more question, and I'll ask this, but you also again touched a beautiful point that I can build on, because we are talking about scaling companies and helping people to grow some audio products that people love. And you talk about taking like people. Remember when we discussed a few days ago, I asked you the question, so what is the secret sauce of Arturia, which is actually such a one of the pearls on the market, right? So there is only few companies that grew so far, and except of course from the exceptional owner. You what you said, I'm not going to spoil. You said people, right?
Yeah. To be honest, I don't remember what I answered you that time.
People, right? Finding the right people, right?
The team is it's yeah. What makes a company stands out or not, for sure.
Yeah, so we have one more, and we have 4 minutes. Yes, we'll manage to take it. So where do you usually find audio developers in Europe? LinkedIn, audio conferences, Discord, Slack? I'm looking for a co-founder with experience in CC++, audio engine development.
Yeah, I think LinkedIn is of course a very great place to network and find people. Audio conferences, yeah, I've met and hired and partnered with several people. For instance, at ADC, because I've participated in most of them since the beginning. And it's always a good place to network. Discord and Slack groups, not that much, not really. And
there is also us, we can help you out, Jose. So if you need help, reach out to us. But LinkedIn is actually, we are a true true evidence that LinkedIn works, because we with Kevin met over LinkedIn, like I mentioned at the beginning, wrote messages for a long time, before we, then the conference.
Yeah. It works very well, and usually when you are reaching to people in LinkedIn, they are usually keen to answer and start discussions, and so don't be shy, and contact people.
Jose, and you contact us, we're in touch anyway. So I can reach out to you. We definitely can help. There are some communities as well, so that will be happy to like, for example, audio.
The audio programmer.
Audio programmer, exactly. Yeah, so they do
Discord
stuff.
is probably the best one, also to have reach, especially if you are looking for people with expertise
Joshua
and audio engine.
Joshua.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Any more questions, guys? We have 2 more minutes. We are just like a perfect, like TGV, right? Right on time. Any more questions from anyone before we stop and adjourn and call it a day? No? If not, the recording will be available. So we're just not only thanking people who are listening, but those who are just listening later, a couple of days later. We also thank you. And first of all, thank you, Kevin, right, for spending some time and sharing knowledge. Oh, there is actually one more. Can we have one more minute? Okay, maybe. How will hard to turn down maybe a touchless keyboard? Oh, do you think that in the future will be possible to create music without using technology that we have known for years, like MIDI? Oh, that's a good one, right?
It's a good one. I would say this kind of both keyboards and MIDI. It's very, very conservative technologies in that regard, and I haven't seen yet. You know, the keyboard interface is here since more than 2,200 years now. So I think it will continue to be there, and it's still the best way to manipulate a wide range of sound. So, and the other ones are still kind of niche. So
actually French companies actually leading the way, right? I mean, with
it's true.
how this Osmose,
the Express TV, their Osmose keyboard is fantastic. I tried it recently, and I invite you to try it.
And Embody Me, we also met guys on. There was another French startup, Embody Me, this touchless. Touchpad, right? That Jean
but I think there are very, very interesting things in that field, but that's still very niche, and I don't think it will become a huge market, because it's already difficult to learn how to play music, to learn the music. So that's my thing. And for MIDI, I don't know. MIDI 2.0 is coming, but for quite a long time now. There are some interesting things, but MIDI 1.0 is probably more than enough for the vast majority of people using MIDI. So that's why I'm not so sure there will be a big replacement for that, because what's more important, what could make the change is if wireless things and protocols are coming, because that's really something that is bothering tons of people.
Yes, cables under the desk, you know.
Exactly.
And in your studio on the scene.
More than 100 parameters that you can manipulate. It's not for so many people, I would say. The vast majority of musicians are more than enough with 10 knobs and 10 buttons. So yeah,
this is why I bought this one, because it actually have only knobs, no screens, etc., and I can only manipulate knobs, and it's exactly. And it's still difficult enough, right, to and sequential prophetics. All right, we are just running. We ran out of the time. So once again, thank you for all the questions from everyone. Thank you, Kevin. If you guys have any questions, send them to me. Send them to our LinkedIn page or Facebook page, YouTube comment, etc. We'll just pass them to Kevin and try to respond. There will be probably an article. No, not probably. There will be an article summarizing the entire webinar. And let's call it a day. Kevin, have a great evening and have a great concert. I'm also going for a nice evening. So see you, everyone. Good night, good evening.
Thank you everybody for listening. See you, Washtec. Bye-bye.